Fantastic. First off, I want to welcome you here today. We appreciate you being here. Quick question, how's my hair? Okay. John's running the whole thing. I'm kind of like mini-me to John's Dr. Evil. We're here at the beautiful Smith Center this morning. If you are out of town, is anybody from out of town? Is anybody not from? Oh, fantastic. I want to officially welcome you to Las Vegas, just in case those guys on the street handing out the little cards missed it. The locals know what that means. I'm new to Las Vegas. I've been here for about 6 years. I actually like heat, but the last few summers, the heat index has been somewhere between OMG and WTF. It's been a little hotter than usual. And if you're new to Las Vegas, living here, there's only 2 seasons. There's winter and road construction. So when you live here, cones pop up overnight. So we are here at the Unstuck Happiness Conference. We have an amazing lineup of speakers. And to really get into this and to really be receptive to this, we need you to be as open-minded as possible. So to do that, I like to warm everybody up. Find out who here is happy right now. Great, you're our next speaker. Also, today, as we go through this entire process, please feel free to Snapchat, to Facebook, to tweet. We want everyone to know about this conference. All these conferences take a lot of work to put together. Like I said, we're at this incredibly beautiful venue here at the Smith Center. A lot of people put in a lot of time to make this happen. And also I want to thank our sponsors. I know John's going to thank them, but we can never thank our sponsors enough for these events. They kind of make these events happen. All right, so the person, why are you happy? You said you're happy.
I feel very present and grateful, and I'm happy. I'm just happy. I don't know.
Okay, is anybody else happy? You want to hear why you're happy? Great.
With family.
With family, that's great. Family makes you feel happy and positive and upbeat. All right, so we're going to warm you up a little bit. The first thing I'm going to have you do is have everybody stand up. We want to kind of open your brain up to all the amazing things you are going to hear today. Now, a lot of us, the reason we get stuck is because we do the same things over and over, and we kind of don't even realize we're doing it. It's kind of rote, there's a pattern in our brain, there's neural pathways and things like that. So I just want everyone to take your hands and clasp them together. The same way you have done this for about the last 1,000 years. Anytime you've been, from the time you were a child, when you put your hands together, this is the way you do it, okay? So now this is what I want you to do. Put it up in front of you like this. Slowly open your hands up, and then shift it by one finger. Now close it. Does it feel different? Does it feel a little strange? Because I can tell you, you've never, ever done this before. All right, so what's happening right now in your brain's going, hey, what is this? This is different, this is new. It's kind of mapping a new place in your brain. It's getting a new map, and it's going to open your brain up. Okay, so sit down. That's just a little warm-up I like to do. And the other thing is, actually, we're going to have you stay standing, because we have a little more time, right? Perfect. Okay, so stand up. Find a partner. Just everybody find a partner, and then face that partner. All right? Face that partner. If you don't have a partner, face the wall. Just kidding. So what I'm going to have you do is, for 60 seconds, you are going to just look at that person. You ready? Just look right into their eyes. Look right into their pupil. Just keep looking. Look right into their eyes. We're going to try to build a sense of community here. Keep looking. You're only 18 seconds in, but it feels a lot longer, doesn't it? Keep looking like right in. The eyes are the windows to the soul. Now, without saying anything to the other person, I want you to communicate with your eyes and say, this is going to be a fantastic Unstuck conference. You're not going to say a word, you're going to communicate it with your eyes. This is going to be a fantastic Unstuck conference. We are going to celebrate getting unstuck together. We're going to listen, We are going to learn, and we are going to engage and have a fantastic day. And that is 60 seconds. Have a seat. All right. Did anyone feel uncomfortable? Yes. Even in the back, people who weren't doing it felt uncomfortable. The sound guys felt uncomfortable. So sometimes, one of the things about getting stuck is we get stuck in our heads. I am the poster child for getting stuck, by the way. We get in our heads, we overthink things. Sometimes doing something you've never done before, feeling a little uncomfortable, feeling a little strange, can kind of pull you out of yourself and makes you a little more receptive. So through the course of the day, when you see that person you just had that connection with, you will be able to read their mind. No, I'm just kidding. You won't be able to. But you will have a connection with them. All right. So we've got that. Coming to the stage right now is the person who put this great conference together with this amazing lineup at this great venue. Please put your hands together for John Polish.
Welcome. I just want to thank everybody for coming here. To put on an event like this takes a lot of work, and we've had some tremendous help with that. First of all, I want to thank Denise, my assistant out in the lobby. Most of this couldn't happen without her. She did an awesome job. And also all the speakers, the time and energy they put into preparing this is amazing, so let's give them a quick round as well. We have a couple of sponsors here with us today. You guys, Victoria Boyd in the back there. Just a quick thank you to Victoria. Victoria runs the Philanthropreneur, did I say that right? And is the author of the book Boardbound, which is an awesome book. She has information about that for you as well. But I want to thank Victoria because thanks to her help, I am very proud to announce that Unstuck is now a non-profit organization. So in your gift bags, there's information from some of the speakers. There's also information about Unstuck training programs, and what the nonprofit will be doing is helping people who are stuck to go through some training processes to not only get unstuck, but then to become influencers and be able to stand on a stage or social media platform or whatever they choose to be able to influence other people to get them unstuck as well. So we're really excited about that. Ray and Lonnie back there from the Las Vegas Health and Fitness Chamber of Commerce, they've been a huge help for us as well. As well as Andrea Primo's on her way. She has helped us with some of the social media as well. And also our video team here, Nikki and Dana. I want to thank you guys. So John had everybody move to the front. I'm going to be even a little bit more mean, and let's try to move to the middle as much as possible. And I will tell you why in a second. We want to fill up the middle of this as much as we can. So, John mentioned what an amazing lineup of speakers we have here in Las Vegas. We've done 3 other Unstuck conferences. This is our 4th. Typical Unstuck conference consists of 4 to 6 speakers who do longer keynotes. Today we have 12 speakers for you. And they're all doing what we would refer to as a showcase. It's a 20-minute showcase speech. We're doing that for a couple reasons. One, we wanted to invite as many great speakers as we could into this venue. And another reason we're doing that are these people in the purple shirts here. They are helping us out. We are actually, I guess you would say, in negotiations, right? To turn Unstuck into either a documentary movie or possibly TV series. That's already in the works. So we're going to be using some of the footage today to help get that going. The other thing I wanted to tell you is some of you have come here today to support a friend or somebody that you know that's a speaker. I urge you, stick around for every single one. Because you will get something. Somebody is going to speak to you in ways that you didn't expect from being here. I know because I've watched it. I've watched as one speaker's life was changed by another on this stage. So I promise you, you're in for value. I'm blessed to be able to be here. I can't wait to hear these amazing speeches. In your bags, there's a yellow piece of paper. If you want to pull that out, you're going to need it here in a second. The names of all the speakers are on here, and then we have praise and pause. What we're going to do is periodically through the day, we're going to stop and take a look at this praise and pause sheet. What I want you to do is write a praise, something that you found that you really liked from that speaker, something you thought that was great information. And a pause could be anything that made you stop and think. And when we take breaks periodically, we'll have you go through and discuss these praise and pause moments. But make sure that you write something down under each speaker, anything good that you got from them, anything that made you think. My final comment before that. First of all, restrooms are out to the left. We will be bringing in sandwiches at 12:30 for lunch, so we've got you covered there. But the other thing is, I want you to keep an open mind about the speakers. Because each speaker here has overcome some sort of major life obstacle. And every speech here is going to have 3 elements to it. Stormy, do you remember what those 3 elements are?
You put me on the spot.
The 3 S's?
The 3 S's.
Those 3 S's are the struggle. All 3 of them, there's going to have a struggle, a strategy, and a success. Everybody here has struggled in life at some point or another, and they're going to share some of their struggles with you. They're going to give you a little bit of the strategy they use to get unstuck, and they're going to share a little of their success. Just being here today is part of their success. And I tell you that because we have, as people, we have a tendency to focus a little too much on the struggle. And let me tell you, the struggle is real, right? Where's Patty? The struggle is real?
Yes.
Okay? You're going to hear some very real stories today. There's going to be some very moving, very touching stories here today. I urge you not to focus on the struggle, but on the strategy and the success of each person on stage today. With that, I'm going to hand it back to John so we can kick this thing off.
All right, good job. Applause. All right, obviously we're here in Las Vegas. I'm originally from Philadelphia. I moved here from New York. When you think about cities like that with a lot of people in it, you think, oh, there must be great speakers and all those. Everyone speaking here today is from Las Vegas or spent time here in Las Vegas. We have such a wealth of amazing speakers, people who are inspirational and they're going to energize you, especially our first speaker right now, Christoph Merrill. As the #1 life and business accelerator, Christoph speaks from the life of personal experience that have challenged him to stand up, step up, and accelerate his own life and his mission to continually impact the lives of millions and make a huge dent for good in the universe. Please, he's our first speaker. Make some huge noise for him, Christoph Merrill. Christoph.
Raise your hand tomorrow. No, come on! Just raise your hand tomorrow! Some of you maybe don't have positive listening skills. Raise your hand tomorrow. Come on, somebody try. Try tomorrow! You can't do it, can you? All right, I'm not a stage guy. Is that all right? Is it okay if I kind of roam around? You can't raise your hand tomorrow, but so many of us focus on all the stuff that's going to happen tomorrow. We're living our life right here, right now, today. You're here. Stormy, you're here, yes?
Yep.
Mostly?
Mostly.
All right, mostly. But yet, where are our thoughts? See, the funny thing is in life, a lot of times when we're at work, what are we focusing on? Home. We're thinking about all of those things that I have to do. Now, do I got any husbands out here? Husbands? You know you got a big list, right? That honey-do list, when you get home, you know that list is there. So when you're at work, you're praying you get to stay at work a little longer, right? So you don't have to go home and start on that list. But then when you get home, mentally, we're not home. We've decided to start thinking all about the things we have to do at work. oh man, there's that report that I have to do, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And the problem is, for all of us, we're not present. We're not right here, right now, living our life. Because we are, let's take off half. I'll try to block as much as I can. We're what? What does that say?
Stop.
Come on, what does that say?
Stop.
Let's go a little bit louder. What does that say?
Stop.
See, I believe that you get out of life what you put into it. You get out of life what you put into it. So if you're going to go into every scenario giving 30%, what are you going to get out? That was even less than 30%. You see how this works? If you're going to do something and you're going to do your very best, what are you going to get out?
Your best.
No, you're not. We're never going to, even if you go in with everything you have, you're going to get close to your very best. Because you're going to fade. Do you guys like stories?
Yes.
Okay. This is kind of that feedback part where I'm going to ask you a question, you kind of respond. It works just like conversation. So my wife, the sneakiest woman on the planet, she is good. So I'm watching TV with my son, and on TV comes a triathlon. Now, I had seen triathlons before. That's when you swim like, I don't know, forever, and then you get on a bike and you ride till you pass out, and then you decide to run when you're done. And she comes in, and I'm looking at it. Now, a long time ago, I was a swimmer, and I'm still a pretty good swimmer, but she comes in and she goes, ooh, that looks tough, and then she darts. And I'm thinking, that isn't tough. What are you talking about? I could do that. And then about 5 seconds later, she comes in, she goes, oh, wow, look how fast they're going. And then she runs out. I'm sitting there going, they're not that fast, whatever. So she comes in and she just kind of stands there and she waits for the right moment. And she says, you could never do that. And immediately, what do I say? Yes, I bet you. Oh, I could finish that. And the problem is because I believe that my word, what I say, has to mean something. Because if it doesn't mean anything, then you're just talking and talking and talking and talking, and there's no action. So when I say I'm going to do something, guess what I do? I do it. So I had given up my word that I was going to finish. I never said win. I was going to finish a triathlon. So I found the nearest one to me. I signed up. It was about 5 weeks away. I figured that was more than enough time. At that time, I weighed about 284 pounds.
Wow.
And I figured, how hard can this be, honestly? Now, I picked the small one. They have small ones, medium, and then, Iron Man, kill yourself ones. So I said, I'm going to do the small one. So I really didn't focus a lot on what I was going to do. I just kind of focused on, I'll finish. It's not that big of a deal. So the day before the race, see, I was so confident I was going to be able to do it, I didn't even bother to train. I mean, seriously. Why would I do that? I knew I could do it. So I bought brand new shoes the day before. The nicest Nike running shoes. That money, they were like $140. They were insane. They also hurt. The bike, I borrowed the day before from a buddy. And he gave me these special shoes. Have you guys ever seen those shoes on triathlon bikes? They actually clip into the pedal. In a moment, I'll tell you about a problem with that. And so I go down, and I go all the way down to the triathlon the next morning. And before the race, my wife and I are driving around, and she goes, this was the night before, excuse me. We drive around, and she goes, how long do you think it's going to take you to finish? Because we had just driven the swim was in a swimming pool, an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Then the bike was clear around a mountain, and then the run was up in this neighborhood. And I'm looking at it going I don't know, 4 hours, maybe? She's like, okay, cool. I'll know about what time to leave the house so we can be here to celebrate you. Next morning, I get down there. I am super pumped. I walk into the check-in station, and the little gal behind the desk goes, what's your swimming time? If you were to do a 50-yard freestyle, what is your swimming time? And way back in the day, I was fast. I was in 19 seconds for a 50-yard freestyle. Really, really fast. So I told her, 19 seconds. She looked at me and she goes, are you sure? Now, obviously, I wasn't going to say then. And she goes, well, I'm going to put you in group number 1. So she wrote a 1 on my hand. So I went over to group number 1, and there were guys that were about that tall, and they were built like a brick house. I mean, they were in shape, they looked good. So I walked back over to the table. I says, I'm pretty sure I'm in the wrong group. She says, I knew it, but I wanted you to experience pain. So she wrote a 4 on my hand. And I go back to the 4, and there was a guy in the 4 group that had one of those balloons, like the swimming balloon. And when he jumped in the water, he literally was doing this. Like, you know, he wasn't swimming, he was floating. So I beat my badge, and I swam, and I felt like I was going through a minefield. And as I got to the end of the swim, you had to run about 1,000 feet. Now this triathlon was in Utah, and it was in February. You had just swam your guts out, and now you had 1,000 feet of speedo run. I'll just let you think about that for a second. 1,000 feet from the pool to your bike. So I dart across that, grass was freezing, I get to where I'm going, and now I have a problem. I have no idea how to get on that bike. I literally had never figured out how to clip in that pedal before. So I get all dressed up, I get up and get the shoes on, oh, we have a problem. We have a problem. So finally I get 1 foot in. Even worse problem. I cannot figure out how to get on the bike. A really wonderful gentleman walks right over to me and he goes, are you okay? It looks like you're having a problem. Oh, I'm totally having a problem. Let me help you. And he literally takes my foot and just click, and it turned around. I'm like, oh geez, of course it was that easy. See, in my mind, I had to make it so hard. How many times in life do we make things that are pretty easy so hard up here? All the time. So I get on the bike, and I start riding. And I will tell you, so on the back of your calf, you wrote your age. And at that point, I was 28. And it just felt like $1 million, man. I was hauling up this hill, and all of a sudden I hear, bring, like one of those little kid bells. Bring! What the hell? And this woman, goes smoking. She had a basket on the front, a grandma seat, if you know what I'm talking about, and 74 on her calf. What the hell? Can I use hell? I'm going to use hell, okay? So then it became my entire goal to chase her down. There was absolutely no way I was going to let her finish before me. That was a terrible mistake. Because she had ridden her bike before. See, what I didn't realize is normal bike you push down. Those little pedal things, when you pull up, you use muscles in your legs you didn't even know existed. So I'm going, and I'm riding. I never saw her again, by the way. She smoked me. So then we get to the end of the bike. And I ride my bike straight into the bike rack because I hadn't figured out how to get off yet. So I figured if I would just park it, I could wait. I had yet to figure out how to get the feet out, and I was yanking and turning, nothing. Same gentleman comes over, he says, you're still struggling, aren't you? Yes. He literally does a quick little easy thing. My feet pop right out. I jump down, I put on my brand new running shoes. And at that very moment, I realized something. Every muscle in my legs had cramped. Every single one. And I knew that the beep beeper, you know, the little thing for the ankle to start, you know, kind of the time for that run, was over there. And I honestly, at that very moment, decided I was done. I said, you know what, honestly, there's way too much pain involved with this for me just to get from here to there. Because if I'm going to do something, as you probably can tell, I'm kind of, you know, energy, you know, I have a lot of energy. So when I swam. I mean, I went for it. I tried to break world records, you know, for like 280 plus guys. I went for breaking records. So when it came to the bike, when someone goes by me, I'm chasing her down. We get to the run and I'm done. I had left everything I had. I was spent. There wasn't anything left. The little old man comes right over and he grabs me by the arm and he literally drugged me because every single, oh, it hurt so bad. We get over there and we beep it and he goes, okay, it's time to go. And I turned back and I simply said, are you sure? And he says, you gotta finish. Even if you have to do it 1 inch at a time, you gave your word that you were going to finish. He was right. I'm gonna finish. So I literally, for probably the first, it felt like 10 miles. It's probably only 10 feet. I felt muscles in my butt. I had never even were there. Every muscle in the leg. I had a cramp in my calf the size of a watermelon. I had cramps in my feet. Every muscle, from pulling up and swimming, because I wasn't in shape to be able to do what I was doing. I just decided I was going to do it. And all of a sudden, muscles started to kind of loosen up. And so then I kind of started to move a little bit. All of a sudden, I feel like I'm actually jogging, but I'm pretty much doing this. But mentally, it felt like I was going so fast. Halfway through, there is a drink station. Now, for anybody who's ever done like a 5K, 3K, marathon, whatever, that drink station is gold. They have some syrupy juice that is, I don't know what is in it, other than like 4 gallons of sugar. It's amazing. So I stopped, and I took a couple. And then other people were coming up, so I figured I would hand them soda as they ran on by. Keep going, you guys are doing great. And I was handing it out, and all of a sudden, the woman right there, she's like, this is so great, you finished and came back to help? No, I haven't finished. She goes, do you realize the finish line is maybe 1,000 feet around that corner? What do you mean 1,000 feet? She goes, literally, go around that corner and you'll see the finish line. So without believing her, I walked around the corner like, whatever. Oh wow, it is right there. Hey, I'll see you later. And off I go. Now, it finished in a building. It was the, anybody watched the Olympics back in 2002? Winter Olympics up in Utah? Seriously, nobody watched it? Okay, thank you. Even if it was a pity, yeah, I did, thanks. The oval is where you finished. And so you literally come running in and you have to run the length of whatever the track length is, I don't know, 200 yards. And so I get in there and there's a stadium, there's seats. Now, pride-wise, I cannot hobble through that, right? I mean, if my kids are sitting up there, I gotta go for it. So I get to the door, I take a breath, and I run like I am gonna win a marathon. And I'm just running through, and I'm looking left, and I'm looking right, and I don't see my family ever. And I get to the finish line, and all of a sudden I'm like, yes! Two women grab me, escort me to a table, sit me down, and put an IV. Yeah, it was about that bad. And what I realized was that race wasn't about my family. Because see, they actually never saw it. Because after I had an IV, I basically it was probably a half hour. I ate some cookies, had a lot of juice. I walked out to the car, I got on the phone, I'm like, hey sweetie, where are you guys at? She says, we're just leaving the house. Internally, I was like, oh. That was what the whole point was to rub it in your face. And you missed it. And all of a sudden I realized the bigger lesson. It wasn't about her. It was about me. It was about every single painful step in order to say something and then be able to back it up and do it. How many of you realize that if you actually did what you said you were going to do, you would be where you want to be? Come on, yes? Yes? Yes?
Yes.
If you actually did what you said you were going to do, you would be where you want to be. So how many of you from right here are going to start doing what you said you're going to do? Put a hand up. Come on. Come on, put it way up. Let me hear a, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did that feel okay, or was that kind of weird? Well, trust me, based on the speakers that we're going to have today, you're going to feel weird. And that's good, because the entire purpose is to get you unstuck. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Are you guys ready to get unstuck?
Yes.
Then what you need to say is you need to say, bring it on. And John will come up here and we will bring up the next speaker and get it going. So can I get a bring it on?
Bring it on!
One more time.
Bring it on!
Thank you.
Bring it on, baby. All right, let's do it. Huge chance to Christoph. Keep it going for it. Make some noise. We're on television. We're on Netflix. This is a special. All right, we're going to keep it going with another incredible speaker, Heather Estes. There's no doubt in my mind that Heather has been called to be a powerful figure in the empowerment space. Now, as a writer, as a speaker, as a coach, and an agent of change, she embodies the work that she is so passionate about, leading others unapologetically, sharing her stories, her epiphanies, her stuff. Now, through her equal parts poetic and practical voice, Heather invites us to engage in the greatest love affair of our lives, the one we can have with ourselves. Please welcome the author of The Worthiness Formula, Heather Estes. Heather, come on up here. Standing ovation. You'll get up on stage.
That's good. Thank you for the awesome introduction. We had been there for about 4 hours, maybe longer, with a few recesses in between. And I was exhausted, but I was feeling pretty good about how things were going. I had brought adequate information, I had proved the plaintiff's deceit, so I was thinking this is going to go okay. But I was tired and exhausted. I hadn't gotten any sleep. The night before, all I could think about was how I was going to prove my case to win full custody of my children in the courthouse. You see, I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have any choice. I didn't have any money. So I was sitting there in my cheap polyester suit, waiting for this verdict. And in between the recesses, the plaintiff's attorney came up to me and said, "You know, Mrs. Estes," he's like, "I have to pull you aside and tell you, you are probably one of the toughest defendants I have ever won against. And if you haven't thought about it yet, you should really consider law school." Law school? Well, he must think I'm pretty good. You know what, I do have a good chance at winning this. I am good. I'm their mom. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm addicted to drugs. I haven't done any wrongdoings. I have a great chance at winning this, and he's right. I might think about going to law school after this. So then the bailiff called us back into the courtroom, and we were sitting there. And in his unapologetic tone, he says to the court, "Full physical custody will be awarded to the plaintiff, with joint legal custody for the plaintiff and the defendant. And the defendant will receive weekend visitation." What just happened? I couldn't believe it. I lost them. I lost my children. The only thing that I had left of some value to me had slipped through my fingers. The one job that I was uniquely made for was gone. And it was one of those come to Jesus moments where nothing mattered to me, just the fact that I had lost my children, not even my own life. And I started the self-talk. Well, of course I'm not worthy of being their mom. I'm not even worthy of a healthy relationship, obviously. And if I had my finances together, I could have had a kick-ass lawyer too. Check mark at unworthiness, financial stability. And maybe if I was a little bit thinner, if I was a little bit prettier, maybe I'd have a decent guy. And we can have it all, right? Because beautiful people have everything. Now let's stop right there. Then I checked myself and I said, what is this pattern of self-sabotage going on in my life? And I looked back at my life and I saw this pattern in the areas of being a mom, of financial stability, of body image. All of these things were a pattern in my life. And I could link it to one thing. And it was my value, my self-worth, my worthiness. So how was I going to get unstuck? How was I going to feel worthy in all of these areas of my life? So I started to implement a plan. And I started talking to people. And you know what I found out? Millions of people suffered from unworthiness. Everybody I talked to, not one person could tell me something that they haven't suffered with in self-worth. And so I created a formula. In this process of this formula that I created, I watched, how many of you seen Brene Brown's vulnerability talk on TEDx? So when she talked about worth and how people that were wholehearted had an amazing life, and the reason they had an amazing life because they believed in their self-worth, that clicked for me. So the basics. Let's start with the basics of the worthiness formula. The first thing is knowing what it means to be worthy. If you pulled out your iPhone right now and you looked up worthiness, and you looked up the definition, guess what it would say? Good enough. That's it, good enough. We are all good enough. So that's the first step, awareness. The second part is where we're going to dig in today. And this is the tough one. It's the belief that we are worthy. So knowing it is not enough, right? Now we have to start to believe that we're worthy. And so how do we do that? And the last step of the worthiness formula is sharing your new renewed self, your worthiness with everyone. And affirming everybody else is good enough. So we're going to stick to number 2 today, and I'm going to share with you why it's so important to follow the step of rediscovering your core values. And why does it matter and how do you do it? So I'm going to give you some takeaways today so that you can walk away and start implementing how to rediscover your core values, because our core values are really what make us uniquely us. We may have similar core values with other people, but they are unique to us. The pattern that they're made, those 4 or 5 elements, that's our makeup. So we're going to talk about that. The number 1 indicator of a successful adult is a stable value system. This has been proven over and over and over again. So why does it matter? 68% of babies born in the nation's capital were born to unwed mothers last year. 1 million teenage girls became pregnant, and 1 million boys got them there. 15% of the kids in Orange County, and I picked Orange County because it's very similar to Las Vegas, were in the juvenile system for murder. 2020 did a story about the explosion of juvenile crime in America just recently, and the rapid rate of the sociopathic juvenile crime is due to declining moral values. The moral vacuum that children are growing up in has resulted in a loss of concern for others. They are motivated by the desire to please themselves with instant gratification, regardless of who gets hurt. So why are we talking about kids, right? I'm sure there's people here, maybe have kids, you have children, because we all were kids, right? We can all relate. And that was pretty much my life in a nutshell. I was born out of wedlock. I've had children out of wedlock. Now, I'm not in jail for murder, I didn't do any of those things, but there was a significant pattern in my life. And so what did those choices or those circumstances led me down the road of having unworthiness in all these areas? But I didn't start out that way. And we'll get back to that. So how do you do it? How do you rediscover your core values? How many of you people have had a hard time making a decision? Like, should I stay in this relationship? Should I accept that job offer? Right? Should I go to the gym today? Do I really need that brand new car? Right? Do you second guess yourself? Well, I can tell you that wavering in your decision-making process is because you are not aligning with your core values. And even though innately we know what they are, consciously we need to know what they are so we can start applying them. Making a clear decision, a confident decision, is a direct result of knowing your core values and aligning them with your intuition. So your gut feeling, right? Because when your core values and your intuition are aligned, bam, it's like rock star decision making. You will have no challenge making that decision. So how do we get there? This is the soul work, okay? You have to be very clear, and like I said, they're very unique to who you are. So we're gonna do a little exercise, and I'm gonna walk you through this exercise. Think of someone that you admire. It could be anybody, it could be someone in this room, it could be your mother, or another relative, a sister, a colleague, a boss, a mentor. It could be a celebrity, an athlete, someone that you really admire. There's probably 2 or 3 people that popped up in your head, right? What do you think, what do you admire about them? What is it that you like about them? Well, I can guarantee the reason you like them and the reason you admire them is because they have a similar core value to you. So I'm going to use Oprah as my example because she is one of the people that I admire in the world. She's philanthropic, right? She's one of the wealthiest women in the world. She has a great power of influence to use her voice to help others. And she's overcome a lot of trials. I could relate to her because as a young child, I was abused also. And the fact that she's come so far from that, that means something to me. But the most important core value that I share with Oprah is our faith and our foundation. That's my rock. That's her rock. So we share that. So think about how you are personally relatable to that person that you admire. All right, the next step. What makes you upset, angry, literally like pisses you off? You know, is it road rage? Is it that person that just cut you off? Right? Did someone say something that just sends chills down your back? What is it that makes you angry? And again, because whatever it is that's making you angry is violating your core values. It literally is crashing into it, right? For example, so these are my kids. This is Mason, Samson, Preston, Tristan, and Madison, who's here today in the audience. And you can see that we are a bit of a rainbow tribe, right? We're all a little bit different. So one day, I was at an event at the South Point here in Las Vegas, and I was with my fiance, Raphael, Madison. I was geared up in my cowboy gear, and my son Preston was with us, Samson, and I think Madison was there, and Mason. We were all walking, and you know when you walk into the area to go to your hotel room, you're going back to get ready to go to the pool or something. So you're walking back to the hotel room, and there's that security guard that's standing right there who asks you, show me your room key, right? You gotta show me your room key. So we're all walking together, right, to the room. She asks to show the room key. Raphael shows him the room key. We keep on walking, and she says, oh, excuse me, sir, right there. You. Do you have your room key? Who do you think she was talking to? My mama bear claws came out. I turned around, I was like, he's my son. He's with me. He's with us. Can't you tell? I mean, really. So, why do you think I got so angry? Why was I so mad and offensive? Not just because Mama Bear claws came out, it was because she violated one of my core values, right? Respect, integrity, tolerance, love. And I know it probably wasn't her fault, and I know that she's been in special training, but for me, it just literally stuck me. So think about how your core values may be violated when you get upset. Instead of getting ready to automatically respond, think about, wait a minute, what's going on here? What are my core values that's being violated? So, another educator study here. 85%, let me start. The educator study was done with a group of children over a period of years. In the beginning of the study, children were tested on their self-esteem in the 3rd grade. In the 3rd grade, 85% of children felt amazing about themselves, had high levels of self-esteem. Okay? They go back to middle school, Same kids, 65% of kids feel good about themselves. Only a few years later, 5%. What is this saying about us? You know what? You know where we were at 100%? Guess where we were at 100% self-worth? The minute we were born. Right? We progressively lose our self-worth as we get older. It is hard work to maintain this. It is a lot of deep soul work, and we have to practice. It includes a lot of audience participation. And part of that is knowing your core values. That's why it's so important to do those exercises and to understand what makes you tick. Because we all have different core values, that's why we're here. That's why we get along better with others and not so along with others. It's what makes us us. And like I said, all of those things are needed in community, right? Different people with different core values. That's what makes a strong community. So when we know our core values and we can align them with our intuition, man, we are unstoppable. And our worthiness, guess what happens? We go up here to 85%. But it takes work. And part of it is what you're learning here today and starting to implement, hopefully. So remember what Brene Brown said? Whole heart people have a healthy and complete sense of their worth. So let's change the stats. Right? First step, you are good enough. Second step is believing that. And part of believing that is knowing your core values. Okay? That's just part of the ingredients. Remember that worthiness is something you already have. A really good friend of mine that I just became acquainted again with recently, she says, worthiness is not earned. Worthiness is claimed. Right? We have it. It is in us. We have to get back to that, and it takes work. Because you were good enough. You always were. You always will be. So, Wonder Woman, you'll see in this picture over here, part of what I do is the art of being present. What I realized in my worthiness journal, that being present is important. And expressing my creativity, which is another one of my core values, is important to me. And Wonder Woman, for me, has been an icon in my life since I was a little girl. And of course, the core value of faith, because she fights for the justice of others. She has such a love and passion for people. And she fights it with what? Truth. You know, her lasso of truth? Because you can't love without truth, right? They go hand in hand. So, this is the way you guys are going to connect with me today. Hopefully you can do it now. There's a flyer in the back. But on my Instagram and on my Facebook, I just posted this morning my Wonder Woman blog. And I'm doing a contest to give away one of the Wonder Woman posters. There's 4 in the contest, 4 winners. And if you're interested on taking a deeper journey on, 1, learning your core values, I'll be doing a workshop in September. And it's going to take you through the same exercises that we did, except we're going to dig in a little bit deeper. And by the time you leave, you'll know your power statement, is what I call it. You will know your 4 or 5 core values like the back of your hand. And then if you're interested on taking this journey with me to finding your innate worthiness, you can comment on the Instagram or either Facebook, wherever you find it, that you're interested in doing some personal one-on-one coaching. So I want to leave you with this. The most important part of my worthiness journey has been the journey itself. So I'll ask you, where are you at in the worthiness formula? And where do you want to be? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Outstanding. Keep it going. Can you guys keep that up? Just keep that slide up a little bit longer. Thank you so much. I want to make sure everyone sees that. Thank you. You were great. Fantastic. All right. So channel your own superhero like Wonder Woman, Heather Estes. Don't forget to like and or comment on her Instagram Wonder Woman giveaway at her name. It's right up there, and let her know you're interested in rediscovering your core values workshop and the worthiness coaching. So we've had 2 speakers, totally different, coming at getting unstuck from a different angle. So far, so good. By a round of applause, right? This next guy I love. I met him this morning. We totally connected. He's great. Our next speaker is no stranger to overcoming adversity and is living an example of a person who has continued to live by never giving up. His never giving up attitude is absolutely amazing. He's mentored and coached and taught over 20,000 kids and adults, and despite not having hands or feet, continues to do so. He's a former educator, youth coach, 2013 National Alliance for Youth Sports Coach, National Sports Coach of the Year, motivational speaker. He's spoken along with former First Lady Michelle Obama at Building a Healthier Future Summit in Washington, D.C. Please give a huge round of applause to Eddie Garcia. And by the way, Eddie's a hugger. As soon as I walked up, he gave me a big hug.
Absolutely. Hi everyone, how are you doing today? You know, I wanted to begin with a quick story. It's one of my favorite stories because for those of you who don't know, being up here and being a speaker, it's a very difficult thing. It took a lot of time and practice for me to actually get the opportunity to actually learn some of the traits that I needed to be able to share my story and try to connect with the audience. But I just wanted to share with you my first speaking, I called it a speaking appearance, but it was actually just a personal appearance I was making. And it wasn't too far from here. About 100 miles down the road, down the 15 freeway, there's a nice little town called St. George, Utah. Anyone ever been there before? All right. Well, there happens to be a Cracker Barrel there. Cracker Barrel restaurant, anyone familiar with that restaurant? Yeah. Absolutely. Believe it or not, I may be one of the only ones that didn't like it. I don't know, it was just me. But you just gotta imagine this, picture this. Me, my wife, my kids, we're rolling up to the Cracker Barrel restaurant, and we're there to visit a team from Southern California, a college softball team. Now, I knew the head coach. He was actually my personal teacher when I was in high school, and when I graduated high school, he had asked me, Eddie, you do such a great job working with kids. Would you be interested in being one of my assistant coaches? And I jumped at the chance. And he became my mentor, my father figure, you know, and even up to this day. Well, when I got sick, and I'll tell you a little bit about that story in just a bit, when I got sick, he had brought his whole team to come visit me in the hospital. So, once I got released out of the hospital, they were playing in a tournament at Dixie State, and they just happened to be at the Cracker Barrel restaurant. So I'm thinking, you know what, babe? We gotta get in the car and we gotta go down there. I'm still not strong enough. I'm on a walker with pads, because obviously I can't hold on to the walker. So it had pads on it. So we get there. And I told my wife, babe, I want to get in there right away. Well, wife pulls down the mirror, starts putting on her lipstick, and forget it, I'm out of here. So I roll into the restaurant. And as I roll into the restaurant, his name is Jim, Coach Jim. There's Jim waiting for me. But he didn't know I was arriving. But as I rolled up, he ends up telling the team and the parents, and mind you, this is a full restaurant at the time. Hey girls, look, it's Eddie. And I position myself right there, right in front, and they start clapping. Will you do me a favor, just simulate a clap for me. Stop your applause. Go ahead and stop your applause. Everyone had stopped. And I didn't know why, but it abruptly stopped. It didn't stop like yours right now. Next thing I know, I hear, oh my God, his shorts fell. I'm in a walker. I don't have hands. I'm just so thankful I wore underwear that day. So I'm in St. George, Utah, Mormon country, in a full restaurant, pants down. Jim's just staring, doesn't know what to do. His wife's next to him and he's all, what do I do? And I hear her from behind, pick them up! Next thing I know, he's lifting up my shorts. A couple days later, I have a bunch of social media requests from a lot of college girls. And Jim, the funny guy he is, he tells me, look at you. You left off right just like when we were coaching together, with the ladies. And so that was my first speaking personal appearance that I ever made. So for those of you in the front row right here, I did wear brand new drawers. But if they do fall, please help me, don't just stare. Because my wife is actually way in the back this time. And so she's not going to run up here in her heels and try to help me. So she'll leave me here in embarrassment. But anyways, what I always try to do is when I tell my story's kind of difficult to digest and to understand. So I try to start off with something light. And that's why I like to tell that little story of, my shorts falling to the ground and so on. Because when I get into the meat and potatoes of what happened to me, it's difficult because I don't think like everybody else. My experiences, growing up, having been an educator, teaching kids, think about it. What would you tell, as a parent, what would you tell your children when there was an opportunity to give up on something? What would you tell them? Go ahead and give up or keep trying? Obviously, keep trying. So since 1992, when I first began coaching with Coach Jim, I've been working with kids, and I've been telling them, never give up. Don't stop, no matter what the odds are. My coaching career, when it began in 1992, ended up leading me into a career in education. I've been working here I had been working here before my hands and feet losing my hands and feet 5 years ago. I ran a behavior school. So for a long time, for those 7 years, I actually responded and thought my name was Effin Garcia. But they didn't use Effin. But I was working with the difficult kids. And so if you were to watch the news, and on the news they said, kid brings a gun to school, news at 11, they were coming to Eddie Garcia. And it's actually not too far from here. Desert Pines High School, it was on the lot, it's no longer. The behavior schools, they kind of dissolved it and so on. But that's what I was doing, and I actually loved it. I thought I had the thick skin to be able to handle that kind of kid, and I thought I was helping society, working with these kids, and getting them ready to go back to a regular school. Well, in the evenings, I did what I've always done, and that's coach kids. And you should have seen it. I was working with my daughter, they were younger at the time, so I'd have a lot of kids running around, I'm getting their attention, this and that, and parents would always say, they'd always tell me, how you have so much patience with kids. You're so wonderful with them. Well, think about it. What did I do all day? I was working with the bad kids. So I'm coming to these kids and I'm going, oh my God, your kid is great. You have no idea what I have to deal with every single day. But the one thing that I was always doing, as I was telling you, is I'm always teaching. Since 1992, I was always teaching, never give up. Never give up. And that was something, when you're talking about your core values, what are your core values? My core value is being true to my word. I've been saying not to give up for such a long time that I would hate that under these conditions, not having hands and feet, those kids that I've been telling for many years, don't ever give up. Follow your dreams, do what you want to do. If something tough comes your way, a challenge, face it head on. And then this happened to me. Life was great. 5 years ago, 2013. Greatest shape of my life. Me and my wife had decided we're going to do that Atkins diet. So I was lean, trim, I looked good in spandex. No, not really. No, that's a horrible visual. Please take that out. No, did not. But we were in the great shape of in our lives, which actually helped me. Because it helped me get through the hardest part of my life. And that was what happened to me one evening. Now, how I got sick, we will never ever know. So when I tell you the story, you're going to say, well, he missed that part. I don't know how it happened. Doctors don't know how it happened. And you know what, quite honestly, I don't care. Because I survived it. Now what happened to me was, one night I'm watching football. My wife, she's sick with strep throat. At least it was believed she had strep throat. So she was being treated for it. I'm peeling potatoes. Now don't go home peeling potatoes and think, oh no, I'm going to get what he got. That's not how this works. I sliced my finger. And it was believed that bacteria entered through the wound and found a weakness in my leg. Now, mind you, I coach. So I actively get involved with the kids, show them drills and so on. So I had pulled the muscle like 2 weeks prior. So I was hobbling. We believe it entered, bacteria entered a weak spot where I had the pulled muscle, and the bacteria started growing. It's actually known as necrotizing fasciitis, flesh-eating bacteria. So here I am, cut myself, bandage up. This is a Saturday. I'm not feeling well on Sunday, but I go to work on Monday. Monday I feel so horrible that I go home. And I never miss work. So that was rare. And I was so sick, my boss said, don't come to school the next day if you're just not feeling well. So when I got home, I passed out. And when I say I passed out, you could just kind of say, oh, I went home, I was so tired, I passed out. You don't really mean you passed out. I really did pass out. The next day, now we're on Tuesday, the next day, somehow I faintly remember texting my wife telling her, get me to the doctor, I'm not feeling well. Well, I get to the doctor, we go to urgent care, we're not quite there at the hospital yet, we're in an emergency, not in the emergency room, we're just at a little clinic, and they're going to send me home with some antibiotics, we think it's a flu. Next thing I know, as I'm getting off the examination table, all I hear is nurses going, Mr. Garcia, get up, Mr. Garcia. And all I can now, from there on, now I can't really remember seeing anything as much as I was hearing things. And as I'm hearing things like kidney failure, gotta get him to the hospital immediately, so on and so forth. So they rushed me to the hospital. Next thing I know, well, quite honestly, I don't remember much after that. I have pictures, I have accounts from my family and my friends, so a lot of this story is actually what was told to me. I was put into an induced coma because they had discovered the flesh-eating bacteria. It took them about 3 days, because if you've ever had a swab for strep throat, they don't give you the results right there. You have to wait a little bit. So the bacteria was also the same thing. They had to draw out the bacteria and see what it was. Meanwhile, they put me on the strongest antibiotics known to man, and they were just praying for the best. I was already in kidney failure. Liver and all the other organs were starting to go quickly. My wife had left the hospital one evening, and apparently I was still conscious, still talking. She went to go check on the kids, when about an hour and a half later, she gets the worst call of her life. He's taking a turn for the worst. Call the family. He's not going to make it that night. So here we are. She gets back, starts gathering the family together. They finally got the results back a day or two later, but still survived. And they found out that I had that flesh-eating bacteria in my thigh. But it was almost too late. They were already, they did, you know what, they give you a 20% chance, but I'm just going to tell you this. After speaking with the nurses, about a year or two later, they told me that there's IV bags, and the IV bags have drips. And 1 or 2 drips, you know what, maybe they'll survive. 4 drips, doesn't look good. They know, nurses know. She said I had 37 drips going on per minute. They didn't expect anything. They didn't expect me to be here. So when you hear that the standard 20% chance of survival, for me, it was almost zero. It was non-existent. So long story short, my wife had to make the ultimate decision. Doctor wants to perform surgery, try to control the bacteria. She says, is he stable? He says, no. She said, will he die? I said, we may lose him. Just taking him over to the surgery. So I'm not supposed to be here. But obviously the doctor went in, tried to remove the bacteria, and guess what? He wasn't successful the first time. But I survived. So guess what? They went in again. And once again, I still didn't survive it. I did survive it. I survived it, but he didn't get all that bacteria. Now the doctor had an interesting choice. I tell you about not giving up. The doctor had a choice to give up. He could have done one of two things. He could have just said, you know what, let's take him off of life support. It doesn't look good. Or he could have ended up just cutting my leg just completely off. And had I survived, my life would have been completely different. Because right now I have knees and I have elbow, which for an amputee is gold. I could do so many things. Well, after the third surgery I survived, but I wasn't out of the woods yet. I lost so much blood, I was blood transfusion, I was still in all kinds of failure, kidneys not working, and so on. And so they had to put me on medication, because some of you probably think, oh, flesh and bacteria destroys hands and feet. No, it was actually the blood pressure medication to keep me alive that actually cut the circulation. And so I ended up suffering a frostbite effect on my hands and feet. So when I came out of the coma, my hands and feet had turned from flesh and bone to almost petrified wood. Well, I survived it all. A couple of days before my 38th birthday, they took off my legs. They amputated my legs. About a month later, they took off this, amputated this hand. Then about a couple of days later, they amputated this hand. My life forever changed. After that, there began my recovery. I can't tell you how the people that have been in my life forever were the ones that made me realize about this never give up attitude. I had students that I've taught before here in Clark County come and visit me in the hospital. But not only that, I had students that I had taught 10, 15, even coached a long time ago, start coming to the hospital and visit me. I had high school teachers, come and visit me. In my bed, I grew up in Southern California. They all came to visit me in the hospital, right here down the street at UMC. That's when I started realizing these people would come in and they're coming in and they're going, man, I don't know what to say to this guy. He's got no hands and feet and so on. And I go, hey, how you doing? How you been? And I try to always lighten up the mood. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite things that I used to like to do is, when I told you, I used to be able to see my hands, and they were petrified wood. I used to bang it on my bedpost. Bam, 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 bam. And my wife said, what are you doing? I go, I don't know. I'm new to this, you know. But as time was going on, I started realizing I'm sitting there, or I had a lot. I always say I have time on my hands, but I'm laying there and I'm starting to re-examine who I am as a person, my core values. What I've been telling kids since 1992. Don't give up. Keep trying. You'll get it. And that's what I've been doing my whole life. Right now, I consider myself a success with all the things that I've done. I went to college. I ended up with 2 degrees. I ended up with a master's. I ended up becoming a teacher, then an administrator. I ran a behavior school. I consider myself a success. And before I got sick, I was in the great shape of my life. Oh, life was great. Then it all came tumbling down. Now what? Lay there in bed? Stay there? You know that all those kids I taught, all those adults that I've been, working with and so on, if I would have decided that day that I was going to stay down, no one would have said a thing. They wouldn't have said, they would have just said, oh, poor Eddie, he lost his hands and feet. I've met, in my journeys, I have met people that have lost a finger, and they're devastated. Devastated. So they call me in. They call me in, I walk into the room, no hands, no feet. Next thing you know, that guy's going, I don't know why I'm so I'll be fine. That's it. I'll be fine. So, it's one of those things, it's a matter of perspective. My perspective is my core value of being loyal to what I've been saying my whole life. And what I'm hoping is you guys find what your core value is, and you stay true to your core value, no matter what it is, whether it's faith, family, respect, integrity, a combination of all those things. I know that I have an obligation to do all these things because I do not want to be known as a person that has preached and taught kids to never give up, and I ended up giving up. I'm not going to be that defeated person. So I hope that today, all of you here today, find a way. If you're stuck in your life somehow, some way, you find it within yourself to get unstuck and then re-examine what your value is and then live it. Thank you very much, Eddie Garcia. God bless you all. Yeah!
What this guy? I think is the living embodiment of Unstuck, man. I just love having you around. It's great to be able to call you a friend.
Thank you, John. I'm just happy my shorts didn't fall.
Would it be
I
rude?
survived that.
Would it be rude of me to ask everybody to give you a hand? Let's give them a hand. Okay, now is time to check and see if you've been doing your homework. If everybody could just stand up and grab your yellow sheet. What I want you to do is get in groups of 3 and share what your praise and pause moments have been so far. And if you found somebody who wasn't doing it, feel free to call them out on it. Groups of 3, just take a minute and share.
Okay, get your yellow sheet. Oh, okay. Here's some of the bring it on. The other one is here collectively. So, 2. So who's the third speaker? Okay. Oh, you're out. You can always edit it out. Okay.
Go make a friend.
But I decided to come here and check out this Unstuck conference, and I really didn't know what to expect. I've never been to a happiness conference, but oh my gosh, am I glad I attended. My choice was sitting at home watching some preseason games, which really don't mean much. But here's some things I picked up. One of the speakers, Heather Estes, she shared some really great advice in terms of your core value. And she asked a really important question. And the question was, who do I look up to? Think of someone that I admire. And I happen to admire a old boss of mine that I still have a great relationship with today. And I realized that, one of the things that I admire about her is her core values. She had a clear definition of her core values, and that's integrity. And it's one of those things that I've done my best to abide by. But one of the things that was a key breakthrough moment for me was the fact that she shared with that oftentimes when I meet people, and sometimes I have an instant connection or an instant bond or a repulsion, oftentimes that's because I'm either in check or and with their core values, or their core values are completely against mine. And I thought that was something that was absolutely key to identify and use in my life, so I can apply that on a conscious level. Another speaker, Eddie Garcia. Wow, this gentleman lost his both arms, lost both legs below the knee to a flesh-eating bacteria, and his disposition on life, his attitude is just incredible. and infectious. I can think of so many times where I stub my toe and I'm thinking that the world's coming to an end. And so just listening to Eddie and listening to his struggles and the way that he's taken it, like just a champ, just an incredible person, he's instantly become my hero. So this Unstuck Happiness Conference is pretty amazing.
Excited to be here at the Unstuck Conference. I have to tell you, 5,000 people are here today. And 10,000 lined up around the building to get in. Tremendous, tremendous. So many people. It's incredible. It's really incredible. So one of our sponsors is with us in the back there, Dr. Victoria Boyd. Dr. Wade. Everyone wave to Dr. Victoria. Lovely, lovely lady who's written a great book. And she'd like to give you this book today. The way you can do that is take your business card, drop it in the little fish bowl that she has right there, and she will draw one card randomly. Someone will get to leave with this book. All right, are you ready for the next Unstuck speaker? Yeah. All right. Patty Faduli has spent her career helping major companies define and evaluate their identity and their goals until she realized she needed to do the same for herself. Today, she's here to help you do the same thing. Please help me welcome a post-break speaker, so we need the energy to come back up, Patty Faduli. Patty! Come on up here. Keep it going for you. You gotta keep it going for the speakers until they're actually in front of you. They're all yours, Patty.
Thank you. Hi, y'all. Hi. So, I actually didn't think I had a struggle. And before we actually start talking about that, I want to know how many people are thinking, I want to hear what she has to say, but I really want to know where her necklace came from. So, Anthropologie, on sale, mint and pink, clear, sold out. It was about 30 bucks. So, pretty good deal. So obviously, I'm interested in fashion. And the reason why I didn't think I had a struggle was because I had a super cool job, lived in a great townhome, pretty much had everything. The only thing I thought I was missing was maybe I needed to lose 5 or 10 pounds, and the only thing I needed to find was a husband, and I was going to be good. And that was my life. So fast forward to moving away for another super cool job in the middle of a very small vacation town in Idaho called Sandpoint. Beautiful town of about 6,000 people. Super gorgeous. I thought my life was going to be like that movie Hope Floats, where Sandra Bullock moves to a town in the middle of nowhere, meets Harry Connick Jr. Yes, I was going to meet a lumberjack, a lumbersexual. It was going to be all good. That was going to be my life. So I move in, I'm from Houston, Texas, which is super flat. If you've ever been there, it's like super, like these spaghetti bowl freeways are the only thing that give you any elevation in the city. So on one hand, I had this view of mountains and lakes, like floor to ceiling. And the movers came with my boxes. On the other hand, I had cardboard boxes of my stuff coming in. Now, I was taking a risk in moving to a town of 6,000 people, going from one of the most major cities in the US, right? So I only had them move my clothes, my shoes, my accessories, a few books. So the cardboard boxes are coming into this 1,500 square foot awesome condo on the lake where the CEO of the company also lived in the same complex, right? Super fancy. And the cardboard boxes kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. And the place was like, now I'm like, the boxes are encroaching on me, and I'm getting closer and closer to the view of the lake and the mountains. And I was like, hey, how many more boxes are there? And the mover guy is like looking at a sheet, and he's like, well, we had 6,000 pounds on the truck. Okay, guys, I had 6,000 pounds of clothes, shoes, accessories, hats. I had a box of hats. Like, the box of hats was like this tall. So when you work in fashion, you get free stuff, but I also had been shopping, and I hadn't really been getting rid of stuff. And so that whole idea that the only thing I really needed to fix about my life was losing another 5 to 10 pounds and finding a husband, obviously I had skipped a few developmental steps along the way. So this is the thing about getting stuck. It doesn't matter if you have a PG-rated problem or an R-rated problem, right? Not everything is super racy and saucy and exciting and the stuff that movies are made out of. Sometimes the things that get you stuck are things that fly under the radar that people don't even notice, right? And they're self-inflicted too, because we don't know what we're doing. And that's kind of where this story starts, is the aha moment of, okay guys, like I've got a lot of stuff I've got to work on here. And here's the thing, I can tell you, well, you can change the what. So I went from shopping to doing yoga or running, but if you don't figure out the why of why you're doing what you're doing, history is bound to repeat itself, right? You're always going to find yourself back in the same problem. So you have to discover what the what is, and you have to figure out the why, and that's when things start to unravel and you get unstuck. And this is where this story gets interactive. So, beautiful lake town in Idaho, I had a lot of thinking to do. I pretty much did the opposite of what I was doing back home when I was in Houston. One of the reasons why I didn't realize I had some things I had to work on was because I was out every night. I had a gala, I had a function, I had a fashion thing. If I wasn't doing that, I was watching The Real Housewives of whatever county. If I wasn't doing that, I was on the phone. The radio was on while I was in the car. I went to go see my mom. I was at the gym. I never had one moment to really think about what I was doing with my life. So I was ready for a change, and this is a quote from Andy Warhol that I thought was kind of cool to share. When people are ready to change, they change. They never do it before then, and sometimes they die before and sometimes they die before they get around to it. And you can't make them change if they don't want to. So here's the thing, I didn't think I had anything to change, but when I was ready to change, I dialed it down to 0, and I started to figure everything out. Which meant when I moved to Idaho, it was kind of like I was working, but I was on sabbatical at the same time. So we're going to skip to, if everybody has their black folders, I actually have worksheets for you guys. And everybody has a pen, right? Okay. So my first epiphany aha moment, standing there with the cardboard boxes coming at me, fast and furious, and the lake and the mountains on the other side of me, was what do you invest in versus what you value? You can say you value all kinds of awesome things like God and your family, and then there's what you invest in, which is things like Facebook, right? I love Facebook, but what you're investing your time and your money and your energy in versus what you value, it's kind of like what you value. So you have to look to see if those things line up. So I kind of outlined some things here. So pursuing a husband, I've talked about that. I wasn't really devoting any time to that. I wasn't really actively trying to meet people. I mean, it was kind of one of those things I put on the back burner. I talked about it a lot, though. I didn't do anything about it. So if you skip to the next page, if you look at your 3 assets, time, energy, money, how do you spend those things? Those things are the things that you have that will vary at different points in your life. Sometimes you'll have more money than time. Sometimes you'll have more energy than time or money. But basically, what you're actually doing is what you value, whether it's what you say you're valuing or not. So the purpose of this sheet is for you guys to spend a second filling out off the top of your head what you spend the most of your time, the most of your energy, and the most of your money on. Okay, so what I realized for me is that I was spending a lot of time being social and going out and not really pursuing the things that I said that I valued. I said I wanted to be a writer. I was spending 0 of my time writing. I was spending a lot more of my time just having a good time, because I'm a marketing person, and marketing people like to have fun. And that's what we're good at, so that's what I was doing. Okay, so this is going to be the abbreviated version of this little workshop, so we're going to skip to the next slide, which is completely blank. And the reason it's blank, it's because you need to do your own assessment of what you're spending your time on versus what you value. You kind of have to go back and forth and see if there's a discrepancy. If there's a discrepancy, that's what this blank sheet is for. Okay. So I know we're going through this really quickly, guys, I'm sorry. But the next thing that I came up with was the $1 million question, which is, when you're 120, God willing, and you're looking back, What do you want to say your life added up to? And what are the things that really matter the most to you? Are they the things that you say that you value, or is it something different? Because sometimes the things that we say that we value are things that were handed to us, things that our parents told us we needed to value, things that society tells us we need to value. But what do you as a person, taking ownership of your existence as a person, what do you say that you really value? And that's the point of this next slide, which is blank, is to write down the answer to that. I know that's going to take some time to think about, but that's the point of this sheet for you guys to think about later if you don't have that answer off the top of your head right now. So, the $1 million question, number 2, which is also blank, is what are the thoughts, the patterns, the behaviors that are keeping you from actually getting to your $1 million question number 1. So why are you doing what you're doing? Sometimes it's things like apples don't fall too far from a tree. I know I inherited, genetically speaking, some traits and behaviors from my parents that I have to work on. I know that I make certain choices, and some of those choices are just because I did the easy thing. It was way easier to accept an invitation to go out than it was to work on the hard stuff that I really wanted to work on. It's easier to please other people, and I realized that was one of my problems. I like making people happy. So it was way easier to go and do everything that everybody else wanted me to do than to focus on myself. And so the purpose of this is to really start outlining what those thoughts, patterns, actions, behaviors, and why you're doing them, and where they come from. Because if you don't change those things at your core, you're just being tactical, and you're replacing a bad habit for a good habit, and that's still not getting you to the next goal of where you want to be. Okay, so another huge epiphany that I realized was you've got your heart, your mind, your body, and your soul. And they all kind of work together, but they all work independently. It's kind of like Voltron. Does everybody remember Voltron? The cartoon? Awesome Japanese anime. But, so the thing for me, Heather talked about worthiness earlier. Your soul is what gives you your self-worth. It's also what gives you your spidey sense. How many times does your gut tell you not to do something or do something and you completely ignore it? You're like, never mind. And then you do the thing that you're not supposed to do, and then you're like, why did I do that? Well, your soul is an asset, and if you don't actually take advantage of that spidey sense, then you're really, really missing out. For me, what I realized is that I think too much. My mind is what leads the way. And when you have one of these things that leads the way, you're kind of doing a wheelie. And when you do a wheelie through life, you're only going to get so far, right? So that's why you need to use all 4 of these like the wheel on a car. Your heart is the wellspring of your desires. And if your heart's damaged or broken, then you're going to run into a problem there of trying to figure out your path. Your path is going to have all these roadblocks, and all these roadblocks are going to be created by the fact that you were trying to protect your heart so much and avoid further damage that you made a lot of choices that you probably wouldn't otherwise make. Your body. So in case you guys haven't noticed, I'm under 5 feet tall. So I never really put a lot of significance into what my body is capable of. Our bodies are super powerful. And it wasn't until I learned how to ski and I learned how to really get into my body and do yoga every day that I really became aware of what I can do with it. Before that, I just focused on looking good. I worked out as much as I needed to look good, and that was it. So all of this culminated in this next slide, guys. And this is where the hard work really, really, really came in, right? So there's what you have to do to be operational in life, and that's just basically to be a healthy, balanced person, to pay your taxes, to pay your bills, to keep your kids fed. This is like brass tacks, bottom line. There's what you need to do to be strategic, to get to those goals. That $1 million question, that when you're 120 and you look back and you want to say, this is what I did with my life, you've got to lay out the baby steps in terms of what you need to do to be strategic. And the last column was the super hardest one for me ever. And that's, what do I need to eliminate, even if it's temporarily. When I dialed it back down to 0, I upset a lot of people. right? Because you're not there for everybody. That was one of my problems. That's not everybody's problem. But for me, being a people pleaser was something I really had to put me first. And that was really, really, really tough. But what you need to eliminate is going to be different for everybody. But there are 24 hours in a day. And if somebody has a secret to being operational, strategic, and making everybody else happy and can get it done, I want to know right now. Please share that with me, and you need to be up here because there's no possible way. So this was my strategy for actually figuring out what I needed to do with my life. So I got rid of 4,000 pounds of stuff when I was in Idaho. I exchanged all that stuff for learning how to ski, helping race a sailboat, figuring out how to deal with disappointment and discipline and pain by doing yoga every day. I started writing. I started a website. I'm doing this. And I got my life back on track to where I wanted it to be. I still haven't met my Harry Connick Jr. yet. I know that's going to happen. But this is the website that I ended up creating. And I called it Nifty Lane because what I realized, one of my big challenges and one of the things that I had to write down is that I'm an only child, and it's easy to get focused on other people and what other people are doing and comparing yourself to your friends and the people around you. And I had a week where I had like 3 dates in 1 week, and this one guy kept trying to like move his date up forward, and I was like, no. You're Saturday. We're gonna stick to Saturday. And he was basically, like trying to be pushy. And one of my coworkers said, dude, you need to stay in your lane. And that's what I realized I needed to be doing. When you focus on other people and what everybody else is doing, it really just distracts your energy and your time for where you need to be. So I want to thank you guys for your time today. I tried to breeze through it as quickly as possible. In your packet, you should have a slide on voting. So John and I are actually wanting to present at South by Southwest together. That is a conference that happens in Austin every year. We need your vote. There are instructions on how to vote for us. If you guys wouldn't mind following those instructions, you can do it on your phone. I'm happy to also help you guys out. And there's also a slide in where you can get these worksheets on my website as well, if you need them or if you want to share them. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys. Oh, wait, sorry, I forgot one quick thing. In this black folder, there's 2 other things. One is a postcard. So, if you guys self-address this postcard to yourself and you write out here for accountability what the things are that you want to eliminate and what the things are that you want to focus on that are strategic, you're going to get this back into the mail sent to you in 6 months. So I'm going to be your accountability partner for that. The other thing you have are a set of thank you stickers. I'm going to tell you, I could talk to you all day about getting rid of stuff and why we hold on to stuff, and that's a whole other topic. But I read this book called The Japanese Art of Tidying Up, and one of the things that it says is to be grateful and thankful for things in your life that you use but you don't need anymore. So here's some thank you stickers. Stick them on the items that you want to get rid of and put them in the donation pile. So thank you. Thank you.
Isn't she awesome, guys? Come on, get everybody. Now you can say you know somebody who has lost 4,000 pounds. She used to be 8 foot tall.
That's right.
Now look at it. Okay, just to give you a little bit of background on Unstuck and how we got here. This started as an idea about 2.5 years ago. I was doing some of my own workshops based around my book, Finding Your Happiness. And all of a sudden I thought, my story is okay, but there's all these people who have these amazing stories. What would it be like if we put them all together? And so after I wrote my first book, I had no speaking experience, I had no experience with any of this, and I found a meetup group for speakers. And I was going to it, about once a week for probably 2 months. And all of a sudden this guy shows up, his first time there. And he gets up and he starts talking about how he's living with cancer, and he started talking about his bucket list and how he's going to live his bucket list lifestyle with cancer, and he wanted to teach everybody else how to live a bucket list lifestyle. Now, the guy who was facilitating the group at the time looked at him and he goes, you know what you need to do is you need to find somebody who's a little further ahead of you that's doing these things, and you need to partner with somebody that's on a similar path as you. I stood up right then and said, he'll be working with me. Never met the guy before. He'll be working with me. Now the problem is I wasn't working. I wasn't doing anything yet. But I knew that this person had a similar goal, similar mission to me. And I knew that we'd be able to work great together. And for the next 3.5 years, we worked together to put on the first 2 Unstuck conferences. He became my best friend, and it's definitely a symbol of what it meant to live unstuck. This guy was literally there for me in every capacity, and we had this really strange connection where we would talk about something and it would instantly come true. We're talking about National Speakers Association. I'm like, I just heard of this group. I met this guy. He's the president. Oh wait, he just walked in front of us. Let's go talk to him. So now that guy's one of my best friends too. We talked about doing, at the last 2 conferences, we did this thing where we had a cornstarch pole filled with, a pole filled with cornstarch and water so you could walk around on top of it. And then if you stop, you sink, it's like quicksand. Couldn't do it here at the Smith Center for obvious reasons. I don't want to pay for a new floor at the Smith Center. But while we were looking at that, I'm like, man, if we can only do this. And Dale says to me, he's like, well, let's find somebody who's done it before that. Maybe there's somebody who's done this before. Let's look it up. Sure enough, there was a guy who did it on the Ellen DeGeneres show a couple years before that. I'm like, well, who is the guy? It's like, this guy who's been on Ellen a bunch of times. His name's Steve Spangler. I just started laughing. I'm like, here we go again. Because I'm on the board of director for National Speakers Association, we invite speakers in on a monthly basis, and the board takes them out to dinner beforehand. 2 weeks later, I was having dinner with Steve Spangler. And we talked about how to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present a video for you of Mr. Dale Krause, Mr. Bucket List.
My name is Dale Krause, Mr. Bucket List. I love being able to just wake up and go, I stole another day. And I live each and every day, well, kind of like, I don't know, rental car with full insurance, you know? If you can get all 4 tires off the ground, I'm going to do it. So, I checked off 13 bucket list items in 1 year. The following year, 26. It was amazing. I love living this bucket list lifestyle. I would like to tell you a little bit about how I kind of got this bucket list thing started and doing all these fun things. Is it okay if I share with you a little bit about how this all started? It's a really good story. So, we go on to 2008, 2009. Does anybody remember the bust? Big old housing bust? You lose a home. I lost my home. And you're like, Dale, Las Vegas, like 70% of people lost their home. No big deal. But there's still those feelings and emotions when you're like, I've accomplished, I'm moving up and climbing the ladder, and then bam, downsides. You have to let things go, downside again, let things go, you know, your possessions. And I got that followed up by, you know, the economy kind of went down. I walked away from my business partners. I had a different plan than what they wanted. Kind of went off on my own. Follow that by a divorce. Those are always fun. Another clean slate. So, in a matter of 2 to 3 years, lost my home, lost my business, lost my marriage, family. You know, as a man, I'm like, I'm the support, head of the household, and when those titles kind of get ripped from you, that'll take you back, it'll throw you down. And just after all that, I get diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2012. So I don't know how many bullets are in this gun, but bucket all. I gotta work my bucket list. I gotta get going. I don't know how much time I have, but I'm tired of this downward spiral. And I want to look up. I started dance lessons and chemo on the same weekend because I said I'm going to laugh and dance my way through chemo and recovery. And I did. What I didn't know is everything I was going to learn on the other side of that. You have your foot to the floor, and the engine's just going, Wah! Right? Mud's flying, sand's flying, and you're barely even moving. Like, it sounds and it feels like you should be doing 70 miles an hour, and you're doing like 1. Anybody else experienced that before? Yeah. And you're turning it, you know, bump your partner, and you guys are rocking back and forth, and whatever you gotta do, and you're just moving a little bit at a time, just a little tiny bit, and you know you can't stop. If you hit the brakes, you're done. You'll never get going again. Not without a bunch of help. So, twisting the wheel, whatever you have to do, and then it finally starts to grab. You can start to feel it, even in the seat while you're sitting in there. All of a sudden, it grabs and takes off. That is a rush. When it finally grabs and launches you forward. It's like this victory you didn't even expect. You didn't know what was going to happen. Am I going to be stuck or am I not? But I'm giving it my all. That's the momentum. Momentum is your friend. If you're ever in mud, sand. The only thing I couldn't put in there, my cancer came back. It was a vengeance. Standing before you today, battling stage 4. It wanted a rematch. I said, you know what? Bring it. We don't know how much time we have. We need to get off our butts and accomplish things. Make those lists. Find that happiness and pursue it.
So we lost Dale in September. And Jamie and I had the pleasure of being able to spend that last weekend with him. And up until that very last weekend, he was still the most positive, happy person I knew. And so we promised him that his message would not end there. So we were sharing Dale's message at every Unstuck conference because he truly did live an unstuck life. To be able to walk in the face of cancer and live the way he did was amazing. So, switching gears now. People ask me all the time, where do you find speakers for Unstuck? And my response is, they find me. Which seems odd, but I can promise you that I have a list of 30 people at home who had requested to speak here. And we picked the best possible mix of speakers. But I'm always looking for some amazing new stories, new people to share with. And one of the best marketing tools that I have, bar none, is my Ohio State t-shirt. So I spend a lot of time in coffee shops writing and working and preparing, and I happen to go to Starbucks quite often, and I'm sitting here with my Ohio State shirt. One day I look over and here's this girl on a laptop that has Cleveland on it. And obvious connection, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you, that's it. Several months later, I'm sitting at the coffee shop again, and about a few seats down is this same girl. And there's a guy sitting across from her, and I'm overhearing the conversation, and she may completely not agree with this statement, but I listened but couldn't help but hear for almost an hour as the guy was talking to her, and she never really spoke. And at one point, the guy made a comment about not liking motivational speakers. I'm like, okay. I actually was getting ready for the next conference at the time, and I'm sitting there. Okay, the guy doesn't like motivational speakers, whatever. So they get up, They say goodbyes. She sits down and looks at me and she goes, "What do you do again?" "I'm a motivational speaker." And she's like, "That's so cool. That's what I want to do." Well, I became Facebook friends with her and I watched what she was doing. And it was amazing that she wasn't just talking about it, she was living her dream. Alexa Glazer is on the road to live out her dreams. Dreams of passionate endeavors and mind-blowing experiences. Alexa graduated from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas with a bachelor's in business management and 2 minors in entrepreneurship and dance. She was a member of the national championship dance team at UNLV, the Rebel Girls. Currently, she's building her own empire called Living the Dream, the Movement. Writing a book and blog, collaborating with teams as a performance and life coach, as well as working with a nonprofit in rural Clark County. She speaks in front of people like you so that she can challenge your mind and in turn, can challenge hers. She believes that life is a series of contradictions. Roles are meant to be broken, and that everyone should be living the dream, day in and day out. Here to share her story, help me welcome Alexa Glazer.
video, I want you to take a look at your own life, and I want you to ask yourself, what do you think living the dream means? And then after you come up with your idea of what that means, I want you to ask yourself if you're living it. Are you doing it? So I want to lay out a timeline for you. So 3.5 years ago, I was living the dream because nothing bad had ever happened to me. Because I was living in Las Vegas, Nevada, still dating my high school sweetheart, and dancing on one of the best dance teams in the nation. The only things I was stressed about was school, injuries, and making a few bucks to pay my rent with. Life 3.5 years ago was easy. Therefore, it had to be what living the dream was. So fast forward in time, today, I am living the dream because bad things have happened to me. Because I've hit rock bottom, hit it again, and then again. Because I now know what it feels like to feel those emotions in your entire being. Because in spite of the struggles, the hardships, and the days I had to fight with myself to get out of bed, I am now a different person. Because in those situations, I learned perspective. And I became a better human being because of those. So now I live the life that people say is unfair. That's not easy. So I know based on that video, you're like, no, you're living the dream because you're killing it. You're knocking one thing off your bucket list after the next. You're jumping off bridges and out of airplanes for fun. And on top of it, you have friends and family that you love and adore. So with that said, I've had plenty of people say, well, of course she's living the dream. She's young, blonde, and living on the beach. Well, they're wrong. In my opinion, this is someone who knows nothing about me. They don't know my story. It's someone who's judging people and stereotyping based on a superficial appearance, and someone who probably isn't happy with their own current reality. And so these experiences I've been a part of, the things that I have and do, they have enhanced my life tremendously, and they fill me with so much joy. But that's not why I'm living the dream. That's not why I'm standing here in front of you all today. So on January 27th, 2014, I lost my dad. I lost him unexpectedly, I lost him quickly, and I lost him like a slap in the face as the entire world stopped revolving around me. My dad was 49 years old. He died of a heart attack in 3 seconds in front of my mother's eyes in their bedroom of our home back in Cleveland, Ohio. So I didn't get the phone call with future hopes and hugs. I got the phone call, Lex, Dad died. And so my entire world stopped moving, stopped revolving. Him and my entire family was there, and I was here in Las Vegas, Nevada, with not any idea of what my next move was going to be. And so I didn't move. Because I couldn't, because the room was frozen in time, and I was in the daze of my life. I didn't say it out loud because I didn't believe it. My vocal cords wouldn't say those dreaded words, and I felt that if I said it, I was the one who was actually killing him. And I didn't cry. I couldn't. The tears just wouldn't come. Until the moment I did move. Until the moment I did say it out loud. Until the moment I did cry. Now this is when my entire world came shattering down. When I wanted to fall to the floor, curl up into the fetal position, and hide from anyone and anything. Here's to the moment I've never felt more alone, more unsure, and more scared of anything in my entire life. And so, I learned from my dad being here, and even more so from when he wasn't here, that you have to go about living the dream. You have to find a way to get up and go do that. And so my dad's spirit was undeniably rich. He had the kindest soul, was the best father, husband, coach, friend that you could possibly ever ask for. And I know I'm biased, but I truly believe that he was the man, the myth, and the legend. He was living the dream day in and day out, and not because of those materialistic extremities of life, but because of his 3 girls, his passion for life, service for others, and baseball. So this wasn't always the case, to be living the dream because of those simple things, to be what other people say like average. So his dream was to play professional baseball, to be in the big leagues, to be an all-star, to win the World Series. Now, there my dad was, not tall enough, not fast enough, not good enough, so in the end, not drafted. Dream crushed. So his next big dream, I want to stay in the baseball environment, right? So I want to be a big league scout, and he got this opportunity. He got the call from the New York Yankees to be a full-time scout. Dream achieved, or so you would think. Now, when I found out he didn't take it, just 5 months ago from my grandma, I was actually upset with him. I'm like, you have a dream, you get the dream, so go after it. The truth is, my dad didn't fail at making his dreams a reality, they simply changed. And he had to make a decision to pivot because of it. So my dad didn't take this position because he found out my mother was pregnant with my older sister. And he didn't want us to go through the Major League Baseball lifestyle, which by no means is all butterflies and unicorns. His family became his dream. His idea of living the dream shifted, and he made his priorities an actual priority. So he didn't let his downfalls and fears control him. He found his why and his purpose in life. So this is a problem I think society has today. We put so much thought into the idea of fear and fear of failure, that this fear doesn't allow dreams to be fulfilled. So then these dreams merely become wishes, because no one wants to take action. No one wants to work harder than the person next to them. No one wants to sacrifice sleep, lose social time, or grind. And so, what I learned from my dad is that it's all about perspective. It's okay to pivot, it's okay to change. And so, my dad still was an all-star. But instead of an all-star baseball player, he was an all-star in life. He still was in the big leagues, but instead of Major League Baseball, he was in the big leagues of parenthood. in his marriage, and the rest of the passions that surface his everyday life. So, I came up with this formula called the Glazer formula, based on what I think living the dream is, based on what I learned from my dad while he was here, but more importantly, what I learned from him while he left this earth. And so those 5 things are sacrifice, the grind, small victories, happiness, and humility. And so my dad, his team didn't end up being a group of men with really nice looking butts and their tight baseball pants. His team was us. It was his wife, the people he created with his own blood. And so living the dream should be based on the now. It's living the dream today because tomorrow is not promised. It's not promised for you. It's not promised for me. It's not promised for anyone in this world. And so this idea is to prove, show, and remind you that you are lucky enough to be here, be alive, and be present. To stop dreaming and start actually doing. Living the dream is not your end-all, be-all, like we like to think. It's not the glitz and glam of life, those materialistic things. It's the grind. It's the highs, the lows, your celebrations as well as your darkest of days. The best part about life is that you have one. Too many people live every single day like they're already dead. Why are we wasting it? And so back to 3.5 years ago, back to when I was living the dream because life was easy, because I was one of those lucky ones. My biggest mentor sat me down and he asked me, Alexa, tell me the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And my response was naive because I graciously said nothing. And deep down in my gut, I felt that it was going to stay that way because I thought that I was one of those lucky ones. And I don't blame myself because I haven't faced any major tribulations yet. I now know better. I now know what it's like to have the worst thing that ever happened to you happen. And so after my dad had passed away, I had to find a way to cope. And so I reached out to people to try and help them, a way to gain inspiration, a way to talk to my dad and get my thoughts out in the universe. And so I had to ask myself, what are the things that you can do in order to release that energy that's inside of you? So I want you to ask yourself, what are those things that you do when sacrifice happens? When the need to either give up something or lose something happens in your life? What do you do when that void needs to be filled? So for me, I started journaling, I danced a lot, I Netflix binged too much, I ate chocolate in large quantities, and I toasted 1 too many kettle shots. So I kept doing these things until I found that there are healthier ways to go about loss, to go about the pain that I was feeling. And so this is what people don't tell you when the worst thing that's ever happened to you happens. You change. You become a brand new person. Some things change for the better and some for the worse. You grow. You start to take every breath and cherish it. You wake up every single morning and physically wear that day out. You do anything and everything you can to live that life, that legacy, over the things that have been taken from underneath your feet. Now, if only it were that simple, if you could feel that high every day. Truth is, you don't. You get tired. You get depressed. You start to wake up and not want to get out of bed. You eat less, in other cases you eat more. And the only thing you're wearing out now is the same old t-shirt that you've been wearing for the past few days. That's what people don't tell you when the worst thing that's ever happened to you happens. They leave out the gruesome details of not being able to sleep, having bruised and swollen eyes from crying so much, and staring at yourself in the mirror like you're a completely different person. Now, I don't blame these people, because that's scary. That's where that fear sets in. That's where we get scared. And so, back to those 5 components of living the dream. That first one being sacrifice. Sacrifice is the need to either give up something or to lose something. Sacrifice is the journey where you learn perspective, where you grow as a person and you become the strongest you that you can be. This journey is where it lays out all of your most important values smack dab in front of your face. It's where you learn your why. And so in my life, sacrifice was losing my dad. It was walking away from an unhealthy relationship that made me lose faith and trust of people. And then having to give up a love and watching someone else walk away from me when I wasn't ready for that. Sacrifice for my dad was giving up his childhood dream of being a professional baseball player for his family, for us. So now the grind, and this is my favorite, it fires me up. The grind, in my terms, is to thrive under all conditions. It's to do things when they're uncomfortable, unexpected, not easy, when you wake up and don't want to do them, but you do them anyway. Because you see that light at the end of the tunnel. The grind shouldn't scare you. It should pump you up. And so, talk about the grind when your parents get married before they're 20, have 2 girls before they're 25, my dad working 7 days a week, my mom 5, dropping us off every night at sports practice after sports practice, and spending weekends away at dance competitions. Parenthood became their grind, and they lived for it. Now, this has been ingrained in me my entire life. It's to have the courage to be vulnerable, to do things when you don't want to, when they're not easy. Most recently, the grind for me has been working on me. Being selfish, putting me and myself, my priorities, to the top of that priority list. So the next one, small victories. It's finding them in each and every day. To notice that the biggest victory that you carry is having that life I talked about earlier, you have. So don't waste it. So whether it's looking at yourself every morning and saying, today's a victory because I woke up, I am here. Whether it's sending someone across the room a smile, a wave, whatever it is, you got to work without traffic. Look at those small victories. The next one is happiness. And I believe that there are 4 components to happiness. And the first one is that you have to choose it every single day. You have to wake up and make a choice and say, I'm going to be happy, even if today I'm crabby, I didn't get enough sleep, and yesterday sucked. What we're focusing on right now. So choose it. The next portion of happiness is that it's contagious. So on those days we are trying to choose happiness and you just can't seem to get there, go rub up against someone that is. Or vice versa, if you're happy and you see someone else that isn't, go infect them. Yes? The next one is that it's a lifelong pursuit. And lastly, just as fine wine, it gets better with age. And I know that that's something that excites me because I know as I get older and these sacrifices and the grind and all these things keep happening, I know that I'm going to be able to appreciate how happy I am because of those low moments. And lastly, humility. Humility gives you the ability to be magnetic. It makes you always aim higher, to not be good, but to be great. It attaches you to all those people that make your heart all warm and fuzzy inside. So humility for me has come in the form of gut checks. The gut checks of life. That no one is safe from hurt, heartbreak, or reality. That when you're able to accept these moments and lose any ounce of entitlement that you may carry, you gradually become more humble because you have to be. It's understanding that not one person deserves a moment of galloping on their high horse. So humble yourself, and the rest will fall into place because everyone is replaceable. And so as I was going through my journey of living the dream and what I think it meant and asking myself all of these questions, I've realized that everything happens for a reason, even if we may never know what that reason is. I believe that traumatic events have the opportunity to create monumental moments and in turn can create a burning passion deep in your soul. So all these thoughts, feelings, and actions are a part of me and they may or may not be a part of you. Because everyone in this room has a unique story. And for that, everyone is allowed to feel how they need to feel because everything in life is situational. So because of these events, I believe that big dreams and small dreams are make the world go round. That dreams evolve, stimulate, and inspire all walks of life, all ages, and all shapes and sizes. Dreams don't discriminate, and in turn can create a burning passion deep in your soul. And so, this Glazer formula to live in the dream, it's a process, and the takeaway is that you have to embrace it. You have to embrace the journey. The struggle truly is a part of the process, and the process is what is so beautiful if you just trust in it. So trust in your dream and know that living the dream is different for every single soul in this room. There's not a right or wrong answer. There's not directions to get you where you need to go. There's only the passion to be resilient in your adventures and to thrive under any circumstance that might stand in your way. And trust me, they will try to stand in your way. And so, as we look at this formula, I know what you guys might be thinking. Well, living the dream is supposed to be fun. Look at how much fun you were having up there. It is fun, but it's hard work. And so people say, I shouldn't have to go through the grind. I shouldn't have to sacrifice something. I shouldn't have to choose happiness day in and day out. It just happened. I deserve that. Again, humble yourself, right? And so, as I was going through this process and as I had learned that it really is about that struggle, about that journey of becoming a brand new person, becoming a better human being. So as much as I want my dad sitting in one of these chairs in the flesh, hearing what I have to say, I know deep down that I wouldn't be here doing the things that I'm doing and touching the lives that I'm touching if he were. Now trust me, that's a tough pill to swallow on many occasions because I feel like I owe part of my success to the life that he had, but more so the life that he lost. Because of that sacrifice of having to lose my dad in order to gain something one day. And so when I said that that's a tough pill to swallow, I can stand up here and close my eyes and I can picture him sitting right there with a huge smile on his face, proud as ever. And then you open it. You open your eyes and you realize that that's not the actual reality that you're in. But if you do trust in that process, you start to understand that's okay. And so going back to the people that think living the dream should be easy, it should be fun. It should be, but life isn't easy. Life is not supposed to be easy, and life is never going to be easy. I'm sorry to break it to you. So trust in that process, love the process, and enjoy the process. Love it through all its beautiful situations and move through all the sticky ones. Learn that perspective. Grow from it. So for me, the loss, the betrayal, the drama, all those little things, that's what I was talking about earlier when I said traumatic events have the opportunity to make yourself exceed any expectations you once had. It's to change the course of the life that you once had. So I'm going to leave you with this. I don't really believe that there are the lucky ones. I believe that you have to go forth and do things in order to make them happen. So listen to this. As you think life is unfair, we think that it should be easy. Life really isn't that unfair if it's unfair to everyone. I actually think that's what makes life so fair, unexpected, and amazing. So as you saw in that video, I like to leave Post-its everywhere with positive sayings on them, things to make people have that perspective and learn something, grow something if they're having a bad day, whatever it may be. So if you look in your bags, you're going to find one of these with a Post-it on it. And so I want you to keep the movement moving. I want you to write something on that Post-it, and I want you to put it anywhere and everywhere. I promise that if you do something for someone else, something positive is going to happen for you without even expecting it. And that's what this journey has done for me. So take your time, figure out whatever you want to say on that Post-it, but I challenge you, go do that. Make someone else's day. Thank you so much, and go live the dream.
The movement. Keep it going for her.
I love this diverse lineup of speakers that we have today. You know, it doesn't matter what you do, if you're gonna send a rocket to the moon, go out with a group of people, or have a conference. Someone has to have the idea first. Someone has to spearhead it. Someone has to shepherd it through. And that's our next speaker and the founder of this conference, John Polish. He's an expert at turning pain into the positive. He's an internationally recognized author and award-winning speaker, host of the Unstuck TV show, and founder of Unstuck Happiness Conference, the person who put this all together. Please give a huge round of applause to John Polish.
The number one fear in the world is public speaking. So if you don't mind, I'm going to hang out back here for a minute. Fear. It's that moment that you realize that the status quo is in jeopardy. Something's about to change, and that change could bring about pain. Anybody here ever experienced fear? No? How about frustration? Frustration. That is that annoying feeling that we get when things aren't going our way. Especially after we put forth some sort of an effort and we're not yielding the results we wanted. We get frustrated. Anybody? Am I the only one? I get frustrated easily, admit it. How about anger? We have anybody in the room that gets angry? Don't throw anything at me, just someone will do it. Yeah, we all get angry at times, don't we? How about depressed? Anybody ever get depressed? The great philosopher / comedian, Stephen Ray, said that depression is just anger without enthusiasm. We want to be angry, but why bother? Nobody's going to care anyway, right? We just kind of lost all of our energy. Now, all of these emotions, they're natural. They're acceptable to have these emotions. It's okay to have them. What's not okay is to sit in them for too long. It's also not okay to move forward without ever dealing with them. Something I have a lot of experience with. A little bit about my story and what brought me here today, and essentially what brought all of you here today. In 2008, I found out that I was going to be a dad. I was excited. I've been waiting for this for a long time. I was finally going to have a baby. I couldn't wait to tell my family. My family was back in Ohio. I was here in Vegas. When I talked to my mom, that was the happiest I had heard my mom in years. She even called me back later that day telling me that she knows I'm going to have a girl. And she can't wait to watch me have to deal with that for the next 18 years. Little did I know that that would be the last conversation I'd ever have with my mom. Less than 36 hours later, she died of a sudden heart attack at the age of 54. That wasn't supposed to happen. I had all those emotions running through me at the time, but who has time for that? I just shoved it aside and moved on. I got right back to work, right back into my daily routine. I even did things like I tried to reason my way through it. Right? I negotiated. I said things like, well, you know, God has taken my mom, but he's blessing me with this child. Maybe it's a circle of life thing. Everything's still going to be okay. I employed other skills to try to not have to deal with her loss. Because I was going to be a father, right? Life was still good. And on April 20th, 2009, I became a dad. Abigail Ann Polish was born. Now this next picture I'm going to show you is my most prized possession in the entire world. You know, they say that newborns aren't capable of giving kisses. As you can see here, Abby's clearly kissing me. This picture was taken just one day after she was born. It also happened to be just one day before she died. So we found out the day before she was born that she tested positive for a genetic disorder, trisomy 18, and it was terminal. We didn't know if she was going to be born alive, and if she was, how long we'd have her for. So we delivered her and just kind of held her for 42 hours. Abby was here with us on earth for 42 hours. And in that time, I experienced every emotion known to man. That unconditional love, joy, fear, frustration, anger, all of it. But short of having her here today, I wouldn't change it for anything. I can remember, shortly after she was born, I would hold her and just kind of walk over and I would dance with her. I only had one CD with us, and I'd put that CD on, start dancing. I wasn't paying any attention. And then somebody came up and was pulling on my arm, like, "Do you hear this? Do you hear this?" Like, "Hear what?" They're like, "Listen to this song." I wasn't paying attention. It was a song by Mercy Me. And the chorus was, "There's a reason I'm alive for the blink of an eye." How much more of a blink of an eye do you get than 42 hours? When we left the hospital, we left empty-handed. She was already gone. And I did similar to when my mom passed. I just jumped right back into life. I'm like, we got to get back to normal as soon as possible. Got back to work, got back to my normal routine. When you find yourself sitting in those emotions, there's really three things you can do. You could sit there, and you could stay stuck in those emotions. You could do the healthy thing and deal with those emotions and move forward, or you could do what I did. And you can start looking for distractions. Anything to take you away from those feelings that you were having. You don't want the fear, frustration, anger, and depression to rule your life, so you look for anything to get you away from it. Some of those are positive, some are not. I started running every day. I also employed a few other coping mechanisms that were a little more self-destructive than that. And this is where we find ourselves falling into things like addictions and other self-destructive behaviors. I thought I was doing okay. I thought I was fine. I thought I can deal with this, I can deal with anything. And then I noticed that I was alienating the people around me. My relationships were falling apart. And even though I was still eating the exact same way I always had, which by the way was horrible, but still the same, and I was running every day, I still gained 50 pounds. See, I was suffering from what I now refer to as a functional depression. So like a functioning alcoholic, I was still going about my business, and I thought I was fine. I didn't feel depressed, but my body was telling me otherwise. I hadn't done the work to deal with any of those emotions yet. And after I found myself divorced and sitting alone in my misery, I realized something had to change. I had to do something different. So first thing I did, I went to the coffee shop, I started writing. And before you know it, I had my first book, Finding Your Happiness. And I found that that book actually was helpful. It was therapeutic for me, but it was helping other people too. So I realized I had something, and eventually it led all the way to what we're at today, to this conference. But in meeting all these other people, these other speakers, I learned that we all go through stuff. And yet, the process of coming out of it is still fairly similar. And so, my next book that I'm working on right now is a 4D strategy to living an unstuck life. And I want to share with you very quickly, as quickly as possible, what that strategy looks like. You guys have heard of the positive psychology movement, the power of positive thinking, the secret, all that. I want to demonstrate to you over here kind of how that works. And so what we have here, this is what I would refer to as my happy cup, right? And the way that positive psychology works is that we go throughout the day doing things to fill our happy cup. We do things like listen to positive music, spend some quiet time, talk to an encouraging friend, listen to uplifting music, pray, meditate, read, listen to podcasts. We do all these things to fill our happy cup. And it works. But what we don't realize is there's another cup. We never talk about the other cup. This is the cup that holds all of our hurts, hang-ups, and heartbreaks. All of our unmet expectations, they sit in this cup. We don't like to talk about this cup. We just keep pouring into our happy cup. Now, of course, throughout the days, we're soul's thirst, and we take a drink from the happy cup. The levels keep going up and down, don't they? Let me show you why positive psychology works. Because what's in our happy cup hides what's in our misery cup. Now, if we never do anything to empty what's in this cup, eventually we're going to have to pour positivity into our life all day long just to get through the day. And that's where I was. I was doing everything right. I was going to church, I was exercising, I was doing the positive things. But man, I hadn't dealt with anything in this negative cup. And so, even though I felt like I was okay, everyone around me could see differently. So now I put together a workshop where we go through how to deal with what's in this cup. But just to give you the very quick version of it, we can do things like forgive ourselves, forgive others, let go of some of those dreams that are no longer a reality, right? We could do things like take the negative and turn it to a positive and start a foundation or conferences like this. We could do things to empty the contents of our negative cup so that it's much easier for that positive psychology to work, right? But you notice there's some things I still kept a little in here. To be honest with you, there are some things in my life I don't want to get over. I don't want to forget the negative. Because some of those negative things are the very things that have made me who I am. They define me. For example, I don't want to get over the loss of my daughter. I want to remember her. I want to feel those emotions. But I don't want to stay stuck in it. So one of the things that I came up with a while ago is another way to, by the way, all of these things here, this is the first strategy. The first D is to deal with your unmet expectations. This is how you deal with them. Another strategy that I employ to deal with those unmet expectations, especially the ones that are going to stay in that cup, is I do something that I call scheduling my pain. No, it sounds weird, right? Schedule your pain. I put it on the calendar to go feel bad. Anybody else do that? No. Why would anybody want to do that? Well, I'll tell you why. I want to stay connected to those emotions. I want to stay connected to the things that make me feel the way that I feel, that brought me here. I want to remember my mom. I want to remember my daughter. I had a car accident several years ago. I almost lost the use of my leg. I live with pain every day, but when I go schedule my pain, I think about that accident and everything else. I think about the things that were devastating in my life, but have contributed to who I am. Get emotional, sure. But it gives me permission to feel. Tell you what else it does. I always do it in a park somewhere away from the house. And I know that when I leave that park, I can leave that emotion there. I can extract the positive and use it for good, and I don't have to walk around stuck in it. I know I'll be back there someday. In fact, I have kind of a routine that I do when I'm speaking is I have a video of my daughter that I watch every morning before I speak. I watched it today. Because it's very easy to stand up here and talk about how we're living unstuck and we're getting through things, but not really stay connected to those things. So I make sure that that's part of my routine. All part of dealing with unmet expectations. The next D is to define your ideals. What is important to you? In some cases, it's redefining your ideals. And specifically, in 5 categories. So my first book, Finding Your Happiness, is all about these 5 categories. P is for people. What do the relationships look like in your life if you're perfectly happy? R is the responsibilities. What is your sense of purpose? What's your reason for getting out of bed in the morning? A, for your activities. I put a $sign instead of an S for money. I know some people are going to have a problem with that. We'll talk to you later. And an E for your environment. People told me I can't use a $sign for money, for an S. I did anyway. I've had other people call me and say, you can't use that acronym because you spelled praise wrong. You're supposed to have an I in there. My comment to them has always been, well, if I don't need praise, praise don't need I. Right? It works. Redefining what you want in each of these 5 categories. I deal with people all the time, and I'll talk to them. They can tell me how unhappy they are and what they don't have. And I ask them, well, what is it that you want? Number 1 answer I get, I don't know. Well, how can you get it if you don't know what it is? Spend some time and define what's important to you. For the next D, I want to introduce you to a few of my friends. I don't have many, but I brought them here. First one. First friend is this yellow balloon here. Always happy, always positive. Everything in life is great. We talk about positive psychology, power, everything. They totally agree. They get it. They understand. It works for them. This next one, blue here. When we're talking about positive things, they're nodding their head in agreement. They believe it too. They know that it's true. They know about the power of positive thinking, right? They know happiness is a choice. They know these things in their head. The problem with this one is they don't yet feel it in their heart. They know it works because they've seen it work for other people. It's just not working for them. When is it going to be my turn? I spent a lot of time here too. The danger with this is when self-doubt creeps in. You start wondering if you're good enough. Why is it working for everybody else, but it's not working for me? You may even start questioning, well, does God even really love me? Is he blessing everybody else, but not me? Be careful. This one, it's a little scary. And the last one? Oh. You know what? That's okay. Because that was anger. And that's exactly what happens, is it blows up on you. Right? That angry friend, about the same time you said happiness was a choice, they wanted to punch you in the face. They're tired of hearing that everything that's gone wrong in their life is their fault. That somehow the job they worked at for 20 years went away and the factory closed down because they didn't write enough positive Post-it notes. Right? They're sick of hearing it. Now the difference between all of these is how developed their faith is. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about faith in God, though that helps. What I'm talking about is that belief that everything's going to work out. That understanding that no matter what you're faced with, things can get better. And they will get better. So how do you develop your faith? Well, you're doing it right now. You're sitting here watching 12 speakers come up and share their stories of how they've overcome, how they've managed to move forward in life after dealing with difficult circumstances. You can now take their stories and add them to your experiences as an eyewitness to what has happened in their life and the changes happened in their life. And you know what? We have a lot of other people in the audience that probably should be on this stage. And just sharing with them, you'll have that same opportunity to develop your faith. And the last D, to drive on. Keep moving, no matter what. What's the old saying? How far can you walk into the woods? Anybody? Halfway. Halfway. Because after that, you're walking out the other side. When you say something like, you don't know what I'm going through, you've admitted victory right there. You've admitting that you're going to get through it. Otherwise, you would say to people, you don't know what I'm stuck in. Right? You will get through it, but you have to be willing to pick yourself up and keep moving. While you're driving on, I find we come up with 3 obstacles. Roadblocks. Roadblocks, that's when you have your eyes set on your destination, you're moving toward your destination, and suddenly the road just stops. You can't go any further. You might be able to see the destination right in front of you. You could see other people coming in and out. They can get there, but you can't. Not anymore. It could be that that roadblock is simply a detour. You could still get there, but it's going to take you longer than expected, and you're going to have to go through some things first. Maybe learn a thing or two before you get to that destination. Other times, it's a collision. A force greater than us is just going to stop you in your tracks, bring you to your knees to get your attention. And you can't go any further. The key to all three of those is that when those things happen, we have no choice but to turn and look in a new direction. Move forward in faith, believing that things can work out. And then I promise you, opportunities will come your way, but they will never meet you back in the middle of the wreckage. They will find you on your path once you get moving again. Now, trust me, there will always be this Abby-sized hole in my heart. You know, I thought I'd find happiness through being your dad. But I had to deal with my unmet expectations first. I had to do things like forgive God. Forgive myself. Let go of that dream that I was going to be able to raise her and do something positive with the experience that I had. Remember that song, There's a Reason I'm Alive, for the blink of an eye? You're the reason. You sitting here today is the reason she was here for a blink of an eye. So we all can share these positive experiences and positive stories so we can go out and influence others. So I had to deal with my unmet expectations. I had to define my ideals. And part of that was I had to redefine my daughter's role in my life. I thought that her role was going to be to be my daughter and to watch her grow up. She still has a role in my life. She's my why for all of this. So now for me, every day is take your daughter to work day, right? Still a part of all this. So I defined my ideals. I had to develop my faith. I got involved in organizations like National Speakers Association. I started meeting great people like the speakers that we have here today. I got around people who have been through all kinds of circumstances and come out victorious. Jim Rohn said that you become like the 5 people that you hang around the most. Well, I just start putting on conferences so I can hang around cool people like these guys. Right? And I drive on. I keep moving no matter what is facing. And it's not easy. Trust me, putting it on an Unstuck conference, you get stuck. I've been stuck a few times in the past couple of weeks putting on this conference. But you drive on. Whatever you're going through, whatever circumstances you find yourself in today, be willing to pick yourself up out of the wreckage, turn and look in a new direction, move forward in faith, believing that things can work out. But remember this much. As long as you're willing to work the gas pedal, God can work the steering wheel, but He doesn't move parked cars.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much, and thank you for putting on this conference. Right now, we're going to do another shareables. Right now, take out your sheets, get with your mastermind group. We'll do this for about 5-6 minutes. We can talk and share about these incredible speakers.